Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest power you will ever possess isn't in your bank account, your background, or your connections. It's in your mind. The way you think right now is quietly designing the life you're about to live. Every success, every failure, every opportunity or limitation begins with a single thought. Change that thought, and you can change everything. Because the truth is, your mind is either your greatest prison or your most powerful passport. Freedom. I can, two of the simplest yet most powerful words in the English language. When you say them with conviction, when you repeat them until they become part of your nature, you awaken a force within that begins to rearrange everything around you. The mind accepts those two words as a command, and from that moment it starts to search for ways to make them true. The energy behind those words moves mountains that logic cannot. Every great life is built upon that foundation of belief. Not belief in luck or chance or circumstance, but belief in the creative power of thought. When you say, "I can," you are no longer a victim of conditions. You become the designer of them. The difference between a person who drifts through life and a person who directs life lies in that inner declaration. One says, "I can't help it," and remains where he is. The other says, "I can and I will," and the world begins to bend to meet his determination. Your thinking creates motion. It sets forces in motion that you cannot see, but their effects are visible everywhere. When your thoughts are strong, clear, and aligned with purpose, your actions begin to follow automatically. You feel drawn toward the right people, the right ideas, the right opportunities. It may look like coincidence to the untrained eye, but it's not. It's cause and effect. Your thoughts are the cause, and your results are the effect. You can tell what a man is becoming by the kind of thoughts he allows to dominate his mind. The person who constantly thinks of success will move toward success. The one who thinks of struggle and defeat will find himself surrounded by both. The mind is like a magnet. It cannot attract what it doesn't first imagine. So, if you want to achieve great things, you must first think great thoughts. You must think on the level of the person you wish to become, not the person you are today. You might say, "But I don't see how it will happen." You don't need to. The how reveals itself only after the what is clearly defined. Most people reverse this process. They wait to see before they believe, but the mind doesn't work that way. You must believe first. You must hold the image in your mind so vividly, so consistently that your subconscious begins to accept it as fact. Seed never doubts whether it will grow. It simply does what it was designed to do. It doesn't look around at the soil and wonder, "Is this possible?" It trusts the process, even in darkness. You are no different. Within you lies the seed of greatness, and all it needs to flourish is the right environment, an environment of faith, discipline, and directed thought. If you nurture that seed with belief and consistent action, it cannot fail to produce fruit. Every person you admire, every life that inspires you, began as a thought in someone's mind. The author who wrote the book, the builder who raised the city, the inventor who changed the world, all began with a thought so clear and compelling that it demanded expression. They saw what others could not see because they believed what others would not believe. And that belief gave them the courage to act. Thought and action are inseparable. The quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your actions. If your thinking is weak, uncertain, or fearful, your actions will reflect that. But if your thoughts are strong, confident, and persistent, your actions will carry that same energy. You cannot think like a failure and act like a success. It's impossible. You cannot fill your mind with doubt and expect your life to overflow with confidence. Begin to guard your thoughts as you would guard your most valuable possession, because they are. Every time you allow fear or worry to linger in your mind, you are planting weeds in the garden of your destiny. And weeds grow fast. They'll crowd out the flowers if you don't remove them quickly. So be watchful. Replace every negative thought the moment it appears. Don't argue with it. Don't analyze it. Replace it. Replace it with a thought of strength, of faith, of victory. The most remarkable thing about the mind is that it responds equally to both negative and positive suggestion. It doesn't question what you feed it. It simply accepts it and acts upon it. That's why discipline in thought is essential. If you want success, you must discipline your mind to think only thoughts that lead toward success. If you want peace, discipline it to think peaceful thoughts. You cannot sow anger and reap harmony, or sow fear and reap confidence. Every moment of every day, you are programming yourself for either success or failure, abundance or lack, progress or stagnation. And the beautiful truth is that you are in complete control of that program. No one else has access to your thoughts, unless you allow them. So never let the opinions of others define what you believe about yourself. The opinions of others are often reflections of their own limitations, not yours. Your mind is far more powerful than any obstacle you face. The moment you understand that, you begin to live differently. You no longer see challenges as roadblocks. You see them as stepping stones. You no longer fear struggle. You recognize it as the birthplace of strength. You stop asking, why me, and begin asking, what can I learn? That shift in thinking changes everything. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not those without difficulties. They are those who decide that no difficulty will defeat them. They use every setback as a lesson, every failure as feedback, and every obstacle as an opportunity to grow. They've learned that the problem is never the problem. The problem is how they think about the problem. Train your mind to look for possibilities where others see none. Train it to focus on what you can do instead of what you can't. Train it to see the lesson in every experience, the advantage in every adversity. The stronger your mind becomes, the smaller your problems appear. The mind is like a muscle. It grows stronger through resistance. There will be times when fear whispers in your ear, telling you that you're not ready, that you're not worthy, that success is for someone else. Don't believe it. Fear is a liar that feeds on your imagination. The moment you confront it with thought, it begins to shrink. You have nothing to fear when your thoughts are aligned with faith, purpose, and determination. Remember, fear and faith cannot occupy the same mind at the same time. One always drives the other out. You don't need to know the whole path before you begin. You only need to take the first step in faith. As you move forward, the next step reveals itself. The light doesn't shine on the entire staircase. It shines just far enough for you to keep walking. And each step you take builds confidence. Each victory, no matter how small, reinforces the belief that you are capable of more. Success in its purest form is not something you chase. It's something you attract by the person you become. When your thoughts are pure, focused, and purposeful, you begin to attract circumstances that match them. When you think on a higher frequency, life responds accordingly. The key is to hold your thoughts steady, even when conditions seem unfavorable. Because conditions change, but thoughts, when held with conviction, shape those conditions. Every time you face a challenge, you have a choice: to think thoughts of defeat or thoughts of determination. The mind will take whatever direction you give it. If you dwell on the difficulty, it grows larger. If you dwell on the solution, the path begins to appear. You are never powerless. Your power simply lies in the direction of your thoughts. A single change in focus, from fear to faith, from doubt to decision, can change everything. Your imagination is not a place for fantasy. It is the workshop of creation. When you hold a picture in your mind with emotion and repetition, your subconscious begins to work on it day and night. Ideas start to flow. Energy rises. Opportunities begin to align. It's as though life itself conspires to assist the one who knows exactly what he wants. But most people never decide. Their thoughts drift from one goal to another, never long enough to take root. The universe cannot respond to indecision. Clarity is power. If you want to change your life, begin by defining what you want in clear, precise terms. Then think about it daily. See it. Feel it. Believe it. Act as though it's already on its way, because it is. You cannot hold a vision in your mind consistently without it taking shape in your experience. The law of thought and manifestation is as real as gravity. It does not care who you are, where you come from, or what your past holds. It only responds to what you believe. Be mindful of the words you use, for words are the echoes of thought. When you say, I can't, I'm not good enough, or it's too late, you are affirming limits that do not exist except in your own mind. Replace those phrases with awaken, I am learning, and it's never too late, and you begin to rewire your reality. Speak as the person you wish to become. The language of success begins in the mind before it is spoken aloud. There is immense power in expectation. What do you expect, you prepare for. What do you prepare for, would you prepare for, you attract. Expect failure, and you will unconsciously create the conditions for it. Expect victory, and you will begin to behave as someone who cannot be defeated. This is not wishful thinking, it's psychological alignment. The mind and body follow the direction of expectation like a compass follows north. Discipline, in thought, requires effort. It's easier to let the mind wander into negativity, just as it's easier to let the body become weak through inaction. But the rewards of mental discipline are endless. When you catch yourself drifting into fear or self-pity, bring your attention back to gratitude, back to purpose, back to the image of success. Each time you redirect your thinking, you strengthen your control. Each time you focus your mind, you reclaim your power. The great achievers of history had one thing in common. They learned to think independently of the crowd. They refused to let the noise of the world dictate the direction of their thoughts. They understood that mass thinking leads to mediocrity, but clear, original thought leads to greatness. The person who thinks for himself begins to lead. The one who copies others remains forever behind. So guard your mind against conformity. The world changes only when someone thinks differently enough to challenge it. When you think in terms of possibility, you begin to see beyond temporary appearances. You stop saying, it's impossible, and start asking, how can I make it possible? That simple shift opens doors that were invisible before. The world bends to the will of those who refuse to accept it as it is and dare to imagine it as it could be. Remember that you do not have to control every thought that passes through your mind. You only have to control which ones you dwell on. The passing thought of doubt or fear cannot harm you unless you feed it. Treat negative thoughts as you would passing clouds. Acknowledge them, but let them drift by. Serve your growth. Your greatest tool in mastering thought is awareness. Become aware of what occupies your mind when you are alone, when you wake, and when you sleep. Those recurring thoughts shape your reality. If they are not aligned with the life you desire, change them. Replace them deliberately with the thoughts that reflect who you wish to become. You are not at the mercy of your mind. You are its director. There will be times when the results you want seem far away. When progress feels invisible, when the outer world shows no sign of change, remember that growth often happens underground before it becomes visible above. Keep thinking right. Keep believing. Keep acting with faith. The moment you stop feeding doubt, momentum begins to build silently, preparing to reveal itself at the right time. The mind doesn't respond to occasional positive thinking. It responds to consistent, disciplined thinking. Ding. One day of belief cannot undo a lifetime of doubt, but each day you choose belief over fear. You weaken the old patterns and strengthen the new. The transformation is subtle at first, but soon it becomes undeniable. Those who master their thoughts master their emotions. And when you master your emotions, you gain the ability to remain calm, confident, and creative in any situation. Most people lose themselves in the storm, but those who think with clarity find their power within it. They understand that the storm will pass, but the strength they build by standing firm will remain. Everything begins and ends in thought. You rise by the thoughts that lift you, or you fall by the thoughts that weaken you. You may not be able to control the events of life, but you can always control your response. And in that response lies the difference between mediocrity and greatness. And the most powerful words you can ever say to yourself are, I am responsible for my thoughts, and therefore I am responsible for my life. Once that truth sinks in, you stop waiting for permission to live your potential. You stop waiting for the perfect conditions, because you understand that conditions are created, not found. You become the kind of person who, through sheer clarity of thought and purpose, bends reality toward his vision. It may not always be straight, but the direction remains steady. You know where you are going, and your thoughts lead the way. From this moment forward, think as though everything you desire is already possible. Think as though you are already the person you wish to become. Think with strength when fear tempts you to shrink. Think with faith when doubt whispers in your ear. Think with purpose when distraction calls your name. Because the way you think will always determine what you achieve, and the person who learns to master his mind masters everything else. Every great transformation in human history began with a single shift in thought. A mind once limited by doubt suddenly realized it could create. A person once surrounded by average thinking decided to rise above it. And that single decision, to think differently, became the spark that changed everything. The same power lies within you now. You don't need more time, more connections, or more chances. You need a new level of thinking. When your thoughts expand, your world expands. When your thoughts grow, your life grows to match them. The human mind was not designed for limitation, it was designed for creation. It is the most powerful instrument in existence, yet most people use it carelessly. They think small thoughts and then wonder why their lives feel small. They think of fear and wonder why they are afraid. But those who train their minds to think on a grander scale begin to live on a grander scale. It doesn't matter where you start. What matters is the direction of your thoughts. Because thought determines motion, and motion determines destiny. Each day, you are sending instructions to your future through the quality of your thoughts. The thoughts you choose today become the circumstances you meet tomorrow. When you wake up in the morning and choose gratitude, the day begins to unfold with opportunity. When you wake up and choose fear or anger, the same world looks hostile and hard. It's the same day, the same reality, but a completely different experience. Why? Because your thoughts colored it. They shaped what you noticed, what you ignored, and how you responded. You see, life doesn't happen to the thinker. It happens through the thinker. Every outcome you've ever experienced was filtered through your mind first. You attracted certain people, made certain choices, and followed certain paths because your thoughts aligned with them. Change those thoughts, and you change the path. It sounds simple, but it's profound. The world bends toward the person who believes they can shape it. When you begin to think in harmony with your purpose, you develop a kind of inner power that others can feel. It's not arrogance or pride, it's certainty. People are drawn to certainty because it's rare. The person who knows where he's going, who knows what he believes, and who refuses to be swayed by the negativity of others, becomes magnetic. That energy can't be faked. It must be cultivated. And it begins with thinking thoughts that build you, not break you. There is a quiet confidence in the mind that believes in its own potential. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need constant reassurance. It simply knows that every thought, word, and action is contributing to something greater. When you think with that kind of purpose, distractions lose their grip. You stop wasting energy on comparison and start investing it in creation. You stop reacting to the noise and start listening to the voice within. The greatest barrier to success is not the world around you. It's the thinking within you that says, I can't. That thought has ended more dreams than failure ever could. But once you understand that I can and I can't are both just thoughts, and that you can choose either at any time, you begin to reclaim your freedom. Freedom is the ability to think independently of fear, doubt, and opinion. And when you have that freedom, achievement becomes inevitable. Every time you entertain a thought of limitation, you give it life. You give it energy. you give it power over you. But when you replace it with a thought of expansion, you weaken it. No. The mind cannot hold two conflicting beliefs with equal strength. One always dominates. Feed your faith, and doubt will starve. Feed your doubt, and faith will wither. The direction of your life depends on which one you nourish daily. The most important work you will ever do is done in the quiet moments of thought. Before you ever act, before you ever speak, before you ever decide, you think, and that thought sets everything else in motion. That is why controlling your thoughts is not optional if you want to live with purpose. It is essential. It is the foundation upon which all other success is built. Without it, even the best plans collapse. With it, even the smallest efforts multiply. You have within you a reservoir of creativity, courage, and clarity waiting to be unlocked. But it cannot flow through a mind clouded by fear and negativity. That's why your first task each day should be to cleanse your thinking, to quiet the noise and direct your focus toward what matters. When your mind is clear, ideas flow effortlessly. When your mind is cluttered, opportunities pass unnoticed. The mind is like a lens. Whatever you focus it on becomes magnified. Focus it on problems and they grow. Focus it on possibilities and they expand. Your environment will always try to shape your thinking, but you must be stronger than your surroundings. The world is filled with voices of doubt, people who will tell you to be realistic, to settle, to stay where you are. But arealistic is often another word for average. If you want an extraordinary life, you must think extraordinary thoughts. You must be willing to believe in things others call impossible. Every advancement humanity has ever made began as an idea someone once mocked. The airplane, the light bulb, the computer, the internet, all were impossible until they weren't. There is great courage in thinking differently. It means you will sometimes walk alone. But solitude is not weakness. It's the birthplace of clarity. In silence, the mind sharpens. In solitude, ideas grow. Don't fear standing apart. Fear blending in so completely that your thoughts lose their individuality. The thinkers who shaped the world did not follow it. They led it. You must also learn to think long-term. Most people give up because they expect instant results. But the mind operates on principle, not impatience. Just as a seed requires time to sprout, thoughts require time to manifest. Keep planting the right thoughts even when you see no evidence of progress. Your persistence builds momentum beneath the surface. And one day, the results will appear so suddenly that others will call it luck. But you will know it wasn't luck. It was law. The moment you begin to think from the perspective of the person you wish to become, you start becoming that person. If you want to be disciplined, think disciplined thoughts. If you want to be wealthy, think in terms of value, service, and abundance. If you want to be at peace, think peaceful thoughts. You cannot rise higher than the image you hold of yourself. See yourself as you wish to be, and the mind begins to organize your behavior accordingly. Success is not something you chase. It's something you align with, and alignment begins in thought. The man who thinks in harmony with his goals doesn't have to force outcomes. They flow toward him because he is acting from a place of congruence. His thoughts, emotions, and actions all move in the same direction. The struggle disappears when the mind and the mission become one. You must remind yourself daily that everything begins internally. No external condition can persist without internal agreement. The moment you withdraw your mental consent from limitation, it begins to lose its hold. You are not your circumstances. You are the consciousness that creates them. Once you truly grasp that truth, you begin to live from a higher level of power. Every great thinker understood this. They knew that the external world is only a reflection of the internal one. So they worked on themselves first. They cultivated discipline of mind before they sought mastery of matter. They spent more time thinking deeply than acting hastily. And because their thoughts were pure and precise, their actions were efficient and powerful. You too can develop that same precision of thought. It begins with awareness. Watch your mind as you would watch a river. Notice which thoughts strengthen you and which weaken you. Keep the ones that serve your growth and let the others drift away. Over time, your thinking becomes cleaner, sharper, and more deliberate. And soon, your results begin to mirror that clarity. The mind is both the lock and the key. If you believe you are trapped, the door will not open. But if you believe you are free, you will find the handle was within your reach all along. Everything depends on the thought you choose to hold. Choose freedom, choose power, choose faith in your ability to rise above any circumstance. Once you take full responsibility for the way you think, you take full command of your destiny. Life becomes less about waiting for something to happen and more about creating it. You stop living from reaction and begin living from intention. You stop wishing for change and start thinking change into existence. And as your thoughts rise, so does everything else around you. For it is an unchanging truth. Every achievement, every triumph, every act of greatness begins not with action, but with a single thought that refuses to be ordinary.